And we should be live.
Perfect, perfect. Good afternoon. Happy Fantastic Friday to our Facebook Live audience. And hello to those who watch this on replay. And good evening again, gentlemen. Thank you for joining what has been weekly Facebook Live discussion centered around various issues that we face in our community day to day. These discussions are sponsored by a collaboration between One Voice under the leadership of Nasombi Lambright Haynes and the Mississippi State Conference NAACP, where Reverend Robert James serves as our president, and Dr. Corey Wiggins serves as our executive director. I am Honor Cunningham, and I am the second vice president and the economic committee chair for the Mississippi NAACP, and will serve as your host for this discussion. Our topic for today is centered around protecting Black businesses and the impact of COVID-19 on those local businesses. We have two guests who will be sharing insight on this topic today. Joining us today is Representative Chris Bell, who serves as the Mississippi House Representative for District 65, and Kiad Burt, who is a policy analyst with the Hope Policy Institute out of Jackson, Mississippi. At this time, I would like to ask each of our guests to introduce himself and share with our audience what it is that you do and your position. So we can start with Mr. Burt first.
All right, thank you so much, Anna. Again, good afternoon. My name is Kia Burton. I'm a policy analyst at Hope Policy Institute. Just quickly, Hope is a Black-led city of five the most economically distressed regions in our five deep South states, with a deep reach into low-income communities and communities of color, both in rural and urban spaces. Now, over our 25 years of operations, we've provided $2.5 billion in financing, which has reached 1 million people throughout the deep South. We have been doing small business lending long before this pandemic and participate in both rounds of PPP funding. So in essence, what I do as a policy analyst, as you know, I do a lot of research on small business lending, affordable housing, access to fresh food, and just general community development work and efforts. So again, thank you for having me today, and I look forward to the discussion.
Perfect. Representative Bell.
All right, thank you. My name is Chris Bell, Representative Chris Bell. I represent House District 65 here in Jackson, Mississippi, Hinds County. I basically represent those constituents in the area with respect to legislation that affects our community, African-American community, as well as the citizens of the state of Mississippi. I want to thank you for allowing me to be here today and share some insight on what we have with respect to the Mississippi COVID-19 business payment plans.
Perfect. Now, Representative Bell, I know that your time is limited. You have another engagement. At this time, can you give our viewers contact information or maybe social media contact that you would like to share?
Certainly. So for those individuals that operate businesses within the state of Mississippi, you are eligible for a relief payment, as a result of COVID expenses. So the Mississippi Development Authority has established the Mississippi COVID-19 business relief payments. So if you have a computer or have a pen by you, you can go to their website, back to business, M as in Mary, S as in Sam.org, and apply for funds that are available through MDA. Earlier this year, we passed a Senate Bill 2772, which gave the authority for the state of Mississippi to allow $240 million to our businesses within the state of Mississippi, with a set aside of $40 million going to African-American businesses within the state. Those monies will be available for the next 60 days. That $40 million that is designated for African-American businesses only. So I suggest each and every one of those are outside listening to us or watching us on Facebook to please go and apply for those dollars. Your maximum amount of dollars that you can receive from those are $25,000 down to a $2,000 payment. So if you have a business such as a furniture store, a clothing store, shoe stores, motion pictures, daycare services, and restaurants and personal care, salons and barbers, you are eligible for those $2,000. And if you received your money from the PPP from the federal government, you will have to wait 21 days in order to receive the monies to apply for the monies here in the state of Mississippi. So just keep in mind that you have two ways to obtain money from the state of Mississippi. If you are in that category with respect to the barbers and beauty salons, you have a $2,000 payment coming to you. And you can also apply for the $40 million that's set aside by MDA for African-American businesses.
Perfect, perfect. And thank you for jumping right into that. I honestly don't think that we could have had a better topic on the 155th anniversary of Juneteenth. I don't know if it was strategic how they picked the topic for today, but I give kudos to whoever thought about it. Economic stability is a necessity for any community. For the past several years, Black businesses have increased in general, whether it's a franchise, a startup business, a gig, or a side hustle. Minority businesses have grown. Then COVID-19 pandemic hits and the economics of the world changed. And of course, just like you mentioned, there's federal and state legislative dollars that was put in place to kind of safeguard the businesses as it relates to, sustainability for the economy. What I want to do, so you did mention how can you please share the website again as far as where a person can go or a business owner can go to apply for the funds?
Certainly. The website is back to business, M as in Mary, S as in Sam, .org. And if you have any questions or concerns, there's also a number that you can call with respect to receiving those monies. Mm-hmm. And I'm giving you another website, email address rather. That email address is COVID-19 relief at dor.ms.gov.
Perfect. Now, who is the administrator of those funds?
The Mississippi Department, the MDA, Mississippi Department of Authorities. They are the individuals that are managing this money, MDA. Also, okay. The State Department of Revenue with respect to our barbers and beauty salons.
Okay, so the funding that you're speaking of, the $40 million that was earmarked for minority businesses, this is the website that you go specifically for Mississippi.
That is correct. That is correct. And if you have multiple businesses, you are still eligible to apply for each of those businesses that you have.
Perfect.
As long as they're under 50 employees.
Okay, and that's what I was going to say. Who qualifies? So a small business is any business that has less than 50 employees.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
And a business owner can receive up to $25,000 per business by applying to that website.
That is correct.
Okay.
And you're going to have to show where you spent money on, where you spent dollars with respect to the COVID pandemic that we've had. You could also are eligible for rent payments as well in this. So it's a well-developed relief plan. We've worked very hard on it to make sure that we have secured funds for our African-American businesses as well as women-owned businesses within the state of Mississippi.
Okay. Are there, processes put in place to help monitor that, make sure that they are small business, and even just keeping track of who receives the money and as well as who was rejected for the money, let's say? Are there protocols put in place on the state side for that?
Yes, there are protocols that are in place, and they will ask that you show some type of receipt, so of the funds that you've spent dealing with COVID. They may ask that. They may ask for some tax returns for some businesses, depending on the amount that you are eligible for.
Okay, so after a business received funding, there is, let's say, paperwork or accountability of where you spent the funds, and you didn't have to show proof of that.
That is correct. That is correct.
Perfect. Perfect. Now, how much time do we have with you? I do want to respect your time. I know you have to jump off.
Oh, I got another 5 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Is there anything else that we need to know about the funding? So you said we have 60 days starting, was that the 11th of June? When did that 60-day window start?
It did start around the 11th or the 12th of June. So you do have a window of 60 days for minority-owned businesses to apply for these funds. You also have, if you've received The federal PPP, you have to wait 21 days in order to apply for the grant money from the state of Mississippi. So there are two caveats in here. And the reason behind that is we wanted to make sure that those individuals that did not receive any of the federal government money was able to receive some of the state money. And then once that state money has been depreciated or depleted, then those that can come in that have received the money from the feds, that they can also come in and spend the money, because we have to spend this money before December 31st.
December 31st. Okay. So the 60-day window is the window to apply, but it has to be spent by December 31st. So there may be still some.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay. Perfect. Do we have any questions for Representative Bell before he has to leave regarding this set aside funds for small businesses? If so, please provide your questions in the chat and we will ask those of Representative Bell while he's on right now. Is there any agencies, or what I've heard oftentimes is people need help with the paperwork, with the process. Oftentimes, not often, sometimes there are lenders when you're going to a bank, and I understand this isn't directly from a bank, so this is through the website, the way you apply, but are there counseling services or some organization that can help? And I'm pretty sure Hope that's on now helps with this type of assistance. But do you know of any organization, a place where a business owner can go to get help or receive help to fill out the paperwork that it takes to do this program?
Well, since everything is online, it's really a very, very simple act of setting up a password, entering your information about your business, asking for the amounts of dollars that you are requesting. It's very simple.
So this system is pretty much better streamlined than you would say the PPP process that people would have to go through.
That is correct.
Perfect.
That is correct.
Perfect. Is there anything else you think business owners should know about this funding?
To make sure that they have all of their documents together if they are applying for large sums of money, I'm sorry. That should be first and foremost, have all your paperwork together, all your tax information together, if that is asked. But it's, like I said before, it's a very simple process. It's not hard to do. You'll be through with the process within 5 to 10 minutes at the most.
Perfect. We do have one question. The question is this for nonprofits or for-profit businesses?
Nonprofits are excluded.
You have to be a for-profit business.
Correct.
So you cannot be a 501c3, 501c4.
No.
For-profit business.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you. Is there any, so as far as a business receiving up to $25,000, what are the ramifications of determining how much of the $25,000 that a business receives?
Let me see if I heard that correctly. So it's going, like I said before, it's going to be based on what you submit to MDA, Mississippi Development Authority. They're going to have their processes in place. So if you say you spent $14,000 in COVID-related expenses towards toilet paper, sanitizer, bleach, sprays, things of that nature, they're going to ask for an itemized receipt of that. So that's why we said make sure that you have all your banking information, have all your receipts in a row so you can have this information available to them.
Perfect. Would you like to provide the listening audience your contact information in case they had questions for you?
Certainly. You can email me at cbell@house.ms.gov, and I can answer any questions you have or help you go through the process and put you in place, in touch with someone who can help you get this done.
Appreciate it. Perfect.
Right.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you. Before you get ready to leave, I do appreciate you greatly for taking the time out and sharing your input on this particular funds that was specifically set aside for minority small businesses. I thank you for what you do on the House level. I appreciate you greatly.
Thank you. I thank you for inviting me. And like I said, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email me and I'll be there for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Mr. Burt, let's look at this through the eyes of an analyst, shall we? Um, how has COVID-19 disproportionately impacted minority-owned small businesses that traditionally lack the access to capital and other resources anyway? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute.
There we
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Sure, no problem, no problem. Has COVID-19 disproportionately impacted minority-owned small businesses that traditionally lack access to capital and other resources?
Yes, yes. The simple answer is yes. There's some recent research from Stanford Institute of Economic Policy that shows that 40% of Black-owned businesses have shut down due to COVID-19, as compared to the 17% of white-owned businesses that have shut down due to COVID-19. Now, this disparity is in part due to the structural challenges, as we mentioned, lack of access to capital and other liquidity that minority and women-owned businesses have traditionally faced and that they continue to face. A good example of this is to look at what happened with the first round of the Payment Protection Program. To continue is that sole proprietors were not considered eligible small businesses during the first week of the PPP deployment. By the time sole proprietors were able to apply to the program, funds were deployed shortly thereafter. Now, given that 90% of Black and Latino businesses are sole proprietors, such a policy effectively ensured billions of dollars bypass these communities altogether. So that's just one example of the ways in which COVID-19 has disproportionately affected Black-owned businesses. It lies in their historical lack of access to financial resources and services.
That is true. What would you say are some remedies beyond the current state relief and grant funds? So if we don't look at the PPP and if we don't look at the $40 million that's set aside for Mississippi minority small businesses, if we take that off the table, what remedies can minority small businesses use to properly recover and ensure their long-term survival and growth?
Well, I think a part of the remedies, or I think a part of some of that effort to increase access is going to have to be at the institutional level, meaning that we need greater support of CDFIs and MDIs. CDFIs are community financial development institutions, and then minority depository institutions, which have a long track record of supplying access to minority and women-owned businesses. We see that again with the Payment Protection Program, that less than 3% of the funds of the $600 billion that was deployed from Congress actually flowed through those minority serving institutions. Any efforts to increase access and relief for small businesses, particularly those of minority and women-owned ownership, the institutions that cater to those communities best.
This is true. This is true. Is there any policy that is best to be passed either through for financial institutions or CDFIs? Is there any, what's that new thing that's creating from this COVID-19 in your perspective that can help minority small businesses? And I say that oftentimes, and I know when I look at it, everybody has to do their part, right? So a small business owner has to make sure that the paperwork is in order. They have to register with the state. There's the little things that that business owners can do. But then you have the systematic piece that we're often hearing about through financial institutions as it relates to access to capital. So once a person has done all that he or she can do to get incorporated, to get established, marketing the whole nine,
right?
What is that other piece, policy, whatever it may be, to help on the capital side?
Well, what I'd say is I think, and there may be small business owners on the call, I think there's some serious concern about the ways in which the relief that's offered doesn't become a debt burden. So one of the highlights of the Mississippi Small Business Relief Program is that these are grants and direct payments. These are not loans. And so that there's real concern about the uncertainty of the future economy, in that any loans or debt that's incurred would not be able to be paid off.
Yeah.
One of the things that we see with the PPP, if you're thinking about a policy that we should raise up, is, there's a lot of energy around decreasing the percentage of money used on payroll. So originally it was 75% of the loan to be used for payroll only. So said differently, no more than 25% could be used for non-payroll expenses. And more recently, that percentage has been knocked down to 60. But still, when we think about, again, if 95% of Black-owned businesses are sole proprietors, just think about the ways in which they're going to have to repay if they get these loans. How are they going to repay that, given that the majority of their expenses are not on payroll, but on things like mortgages and other bills like utilities. And so the policy is, maybe, can we decrease or increase the amount of that money that's spent on non-payroll? In another sense, again, looking at sole proprietors, can we, I think there's an impediment, if you will, for the PPP loan, that if you show negative loss on the as a sole proprietor, you will not be able to receive, which is quite challenging for sole proprietors given the amount of expenses that they have. So those are just a few examples of the ways in which some policy solutions to increasing access for the businesses in our communities.
Okay. Going back to what you do at Hope, please share with us again what it is that you do at Hope. And again, as Mr. Bird is speaking, if there's any questions that you may have, please feel free to go ahead and ask those questions in the chat box. But explain again to us what it is that you do in your role at Hope.
Oh, sure thing. So I work as a policy analyst at Hope Policy Institute. Hope is a unique community development financial institution in that we have Hope Enterprise Corporation, we have Hope Credit Union, and then we have Hope Policy Institute. So my job is a bit eclectic in that I do research on social issues, particularly of the financial sort, doing research on affordable housing, research on increasing access to fresh food, and also more recently doing research on the impact of student loan debt and consumer protections, looking at the ways in which predatory lenders disproportionately place themselves in communities of color, and the ways in which they engender instability in our communities. And so since I've been at Hope approximately, just over 2 years, we've had the opportunity in policy to really make a difference on the state, at the state and national level when it comes down to the type of things that we want to raise for our communities. I didn't get a chance to mention earlier that Hope is located in 5 states, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee. And so again, we, for over 25 years, have been seeking ways to increase financial inclusion and stability in those communities that are often hardest hit by economic disasters and policies that have traditionally discriminated against people of color.
Perfect, wonderful. Do you see any, well, I'm sure you have, what are some gaps that you're seeing specifically in Mississippi, but because you all are in 5 different states, what are some of the economic gaps that you've seen?
I mean, I think there's a litany of issues that face our community from a financial standpoint, from a health standpoint, and then just generally from social standpoints. But one of the things that we focus on that's in our wheelhouse is looking at financial inclusion and economic mobility. And so what we see, and I won't bore you out with the statistics of it, but we see a disproportionate amount of Black households are underbanked and unbanked. We see a disproportionate reliance on predatory lenders in that for the state of Mississippi, predatory lenders, car title lenders and payday lenders extract over $500 million from households in the state of Mississippi. And so for us, just using those 2 examples of a reliance on what we call alternative financial service institutions, that's a major problem. So we, even as a policy analyst, we try to find ways in which to supplement a household's utilization of a payday lender or a car title lender. And again, that gets into some of our programmatic activity on the credit union side or on the retail side, when we develop a product like Bar and Save, which is an emergency loan, where you receive a loan, but you also create a savings account to
Okay.
create a type of stability in the event that you have an emergency.
So on the Hope Credit Union side, um, you all provide business lending or startup lending or capital for businesses.
Now, this is correct. Mhm.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. And give those states again: Mississippi,
So it's
Arkansas.
Alabama. So I do it in alphabetical order.
Okay, okay,
So we'll start with Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee.
okay. So the connecting states. Perfect, perfect. Are there any questions for Mr. Burt at this time? Let's see. Not yet. Perfect. If you will, provide them with your contact information in case they would like to contact Mr. Kiad Burt.
Okay, sure. So I can be contacted via email at Kiyadh, KIYADH .Burt, BURT, at hope-ec.org. I also have a Twitter account.
Okay.
I'm trying to be better at using it. It's H policy underscore Kiyadh.
Okay.
And even more to the point, if you want to know more about what we do as a community development institution or a credit union, you can find us at our website, which is, and I have the policy put up here, hopecu.org. And we have a policy page, which is hopepolicy.org. Okay.
Perfect.
And there you can find our blogs and the research we've done. And then on the credit union side, you can see more about the products that we offer.
Perfect. Perfect. I appreciate you. Is there anything else that in closing that you would like to share with our listening audience?
No, absolutely. There's one thing I do want to raise up again, and that is we are offering, the state of Mississippi has a small business relief program. We need you all to apply. We need you all to apply. There are still PPP funds out. As of the beginning of June, there was still $150 billion left. So we need you all to apply. We need you all to get in line to get these funds. Okay.
Perfect. So for clarification, the funding that you're speaking about are the PPP funds.
Yeah. Well,
under the CARES Act.
So PPP funds are still available for small businesses to receive. That does not run out until, you can still apply up until June 30th.
Okay. And your organization is offering assistance with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And just again, for clarification, the funding that Representative Bell spoke about was the set aside for Mississippi.
Absolutely.
$40 million, where you have to go through the Mississippi Department of Authority's website
That's right.
for those funds. So these are two separate funds that businesses can apply for.
Today.
Just because you receive PPP funds doesn't mean you can't receive the set aside that Mississippi has as well. So apply. And as they said, each business that you have, apply for each business.
Absolutely.
I want to encourage, especially on Juneteenth today, but moving forward, regardless of what today is, I want to encourage people to not only start a business, but if you have a business, if you have a gig, if you have, whatever, a side hustle, incorporate your business, make it a real entity, if you will, incorporate with the state, get a name, open up a bank account in the business name, go through marketing, go through the processes to make your business your business. So when opportunities arise as such, you have the paperwork, you have the bank account, you have the EIN number, you have the business plan, you have everything in place to then apply for some of these funds that are out there. And then two, it helps individuals help you to then obtain capital a lot better. So I encourage small business ownership, not only starting, but I also encourage patronizing small businesses. Those small businesses will grow to medium businesses and large businesses once we patronize those businesses with our dollars and continue the flow of the Black dollar within Black businesses. One quick question before we go. How do you believe businesses will be affected post-COVID? Would you like to?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it just depends on, I mean, this is what we've been talking about. It depends on the ways in which they receive relief now. Again, 40%, this is according to research out of University of California, Santa, well, I just say it's the research center from University of California, is that 40% of Black-owned businesses have already closed. So the question is, how will they be affected? I mean, a lot of our businesses are looking at closure. And we know that in this industry, I mean, no matter the industry, once a business closes, it's really difficult to reopen in the same vein. And so for me, it really raises and emphasizes the necessity of getting relief now, immediate and adequate assistance. And so if anything, I'll just continue to reiterate, apply. If you have questions, if you need some assistance, we can be contacted. Hope is obviously we are a great lender. I didn't get a chance to talk about our PPP lending, but we could definitely do that. So just in short, it really depends on the type of access businesses get now. If businesses don't get assistance now, if they're unable to either keep up payroll or to even cover the cost of obtaining PPP and the health guidelines, we might not have those businesses by the end of the year. Okay.
This is true. And there's a lot of businesses that do not qualify for PPP and even for the set-asides that Mississippi has now for small businesses, because a lot of those businesses are not incorporated. They don't have the bank statements. They have not filed 2018, 2019 business taxes, etc. So there's a big segment that doesn't qualify. I encourage those who don't to please, you can't qualify if you don't have those processes in place. But I encourage you at this time, I mean, we're still currently in COVID, but even post-COVID, once we get out of this, I want people to understand now is the time. Your business may be affected. That's the truth of it, the reality of it. However, I want people to reflect on how can they recreate themselves and come out of it. My background is housing. So years ago, when we had the housing crisis, there was funding and there was programs that came in place after the housing crisis to rejuvenate people into buying homes and buying back the foreclosed homes and different things like that. So I feel that toward the end of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19, when we get there will be things put in place to help us bounce back. I think now the key is taking this opportunity and recognizing and realizing your strengths, your weaknesses in the business sector and in life, period. And knowing once we get post-COVID-19, there are going to be things in place where you can move into that space to help you build back up. But I think now is more the most important time is to recognize that personally, your business, yes, may have gotten hit. You may not can come back from it. What can you do to sustain the piece that you can? And it just may be the credibility of the business name, or it may be the physical location. You can't pay the light bills or you can't pay the expenses for that building. Salvage and save what it is that you can, and we'll find and create the community, if you will, to help individuals navigate to sustainability and picking themselves up. Will the economy be hit? Yes, the economy is hit now. Post-COVID-19, we can only probably fathom what it looks like, because some of the domino effects of what is happening in the world, we really haven't seen it yet. You know, we're still kind of in the where people are receiving unemployment, the PPP funds. We have a little sustainability cushion or cash, if you will, right now for some people. But there's other things. There's some domino effects that are falling that we can't see behind the scenes that I know will come to light later on in months to come, whether it be 6 months from now, a year from now. We will see the ramifications of what COVID-19 has done in the business world, in the housing world, just in economics in general. So definitely it's taken a hit. And again, as I stated earlier, minority businesses started out growing these past couple of years, really started to grow. And now you have COVID-19, and it's taking a hit when we already have that wealth gap difference anyway. Our income is less than other counterparts and things of that nature. So the economy is changing. I want the minority, the African American community, to stay steadfast, reflect on what it is that you can change in this time, and adapt accordingly. And the other thing too is some of the businesses that are now will no longer be in a couple of years because of how things are changing with um, uh, AI, with technology. There's a lot of things that are happening right now that some of these businesses will eventually be obsolete anyway. So again, to those people that do not qualify for PPP, that do not qualify for some of the grant funds that are available, let's form a community where we can help sustain each other. And it may be that hard conversation where you may have to let this business go, recreate yourself into something else. But as NAACP economic chair, as hope analysts, as legislators, there's a community of us that can get together to help sustain and increase and change and evolve during COVID-19 and post COVID-19. So those are my remarks from my heart. We don't have, or I don't see any other questions. I know we normally want to keep these sessions between 30 and 45 minutes. So with no questions being out there, I don't see any at this time. In closing, I want to thank Representative Bell. I know he's not on at the moment. And I thank Kiad Burt. Did I say it correctly?
You did. Thank you.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you for taking your time out, sharing some insight on your perspective in ways that small minority businesses in Mississippi can sustain. So I appreciate you. I encourage our listening audience to look up Hope organization, look them up on the internet, see what they have to offer. If they are in your area, check them out. On the policy side, contact Mr. Burt, see what it is that he can possibly help with, or if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the Institute. I also want to thank our viewing audience for taking your time to stay with us and listen in, as well as those that will press replay and listen later. Thank you for viewing. Thank you to our sponsors. I want to acknowledge Nashomi Lambright Haynes, the Executive Director of One Voice, as well as her amazing team. Thank you to Reverend Robert James, who is the President of the Mississippi NAACP Conference, and Dr. Corey Wiggins, who serves as our Executive Director as well. Thank you, Mr. Burt. Enjoy, and I hope everybody enjoyed their Juneteenth evening. Patronize Black businesses.
Yes, thank you for having me. Please, happy
Sure.
Juneteenth.
Thank you. I appreciate you. All right, bye.